Hey Centra, thanks so much for tuning in today for Wellness Wednesday. As we talked last week, we are transitioning this space temporarily to talk about all things COVID related, COVID-19 to be exact. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about things pertaining specifically to you, things that are probably top of mind for our Centra caregiver community right now. The first thing we want you to know, as of today, being Wednesday, March 25th, we have no cases within our Centra facilities. So that's really good news currently. And to just protect you, the measures that our leadership team and those in leadership positions that they're taking to care for you to make sure that you're safe. Of course, visitation restrictions have been instituted, and so we're still continuing with the latest visitation restrictions that came out last week, and also continued fit testing for those N95 masks. And I think as of today, we've had close to 1,400 caregivers that have been fit tested. So just doing really good work, and we thank you all so much for your patience and for your continued support and just coming alongside one another as we work through this. Definitely unprecedented. Aubrey, let's talk a little bit about just taking care. We've talked about what Centra is doing. Now, what can our caregivers do to take care of themselves in this time?
Yeah, so that's a great question because a lot of us are at home a little bit more these days, maybe home, work. We have our kids at home a lot more right now. So just making sure we take some time away to care for ourselves, particularly when you are trying to maintain all of those things. It's really important so that you can provide care for yourself and then provide the best care to our patients and fellow colleagues as well. So a few things that we want you to keep in mind. Our EAP services are available to you at all times right now. We want to make sure that you understand, even with trying to operate business a little bit differently, they have opened up all of their availability through virtual visits, so you can still have those one-on-one sessions, and we really encourage you to do that. The additional piece to that is our colleagues at HealthWorks also provide us with an awesome work-life website. We talked a little bit more in detail about that on our video last week, but just as a reminder, that resource is also out there and available for you. We know the YMCAs and probably most other gyms are now going to be closed at this time, so we just want to encourage you to get outside. We've had some really beautiful days, some rainy days, but some really beautiful days ahead, I know. The YMCA has done a great job of putting out their videos on YouTube, so you can do some classes. So we just encourage you to remember to take care of yourself during this time and utilize the resources that are available to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a side note there, just to let you know, our Chef Tim, Schoonmaker, he wanted to make sure that you all know that the cafes are still open, and they also instituted this week a delivery service for some of the outlying buildings and for support teams. And if you get your order in, you can fax it in by 10 a.m. There's a nice little menu. They also are still, the cafes are open as far as food that can be served. So certainly we're thinking about food a lot these days. And so just to keep that in mind, if you forgot your lunch, the cafes are still open. Just another thing that Centra's doing to really care for their caregivers right now. All right, so let's transition. We've talked about, what Centra's doing to care for you, how you can care for yourself. Say you find yourself in a situation where you're not feeling well. Maybe you need to take a little bit of time off from work. We had a new travel policy that was updated this week, and just strong encouragement around not traveling outside the state. We have a lot of states now that are going to the shelter in place, and as cases spread and as COVID-19 spreads, just really for your protection, for the protection of our community, we are strongly encouraging our caregivers not to travel outside the state, to continue to be the model for our community and social distancing and staying at home when you can. And so say you have traveled or you're planning to travel, we continue to encourage you to contact Employee Health. If you have any questions, to contact Employee Health. They are the key people to talk to about furlough.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about travel furlough, or if you're furloughed because you're symptomatic or not feeling well. But in order for a furlough to be approved, for any PTO to take place around travel furlough, you are going to need to contact Employee Health. There's a hotline. It's 200-1897 that you need to contact, talk with them. So even if your doctor has said, hey, you probably should stay home, if your manager has said, yes, that's fine, make sure that you cross that final T and that you contact Employee Health. So that's the first thing that we want you to know around if you're just not feeling well, or if you need to be out of work because of travel furlough, anything like that. PTO, a few things that just to keep in the forefront. We have a lot of questions around what is available to me right now if I do have to miss work for various reasons. So we're kind of going to go down the list of the different things that are available to you. Aubrey, let's talk a little bit about PTO donation and PTO buyback.
Yeah, so PTO donation will be available to caregivers that have been impacted by COVID-19. There is a form specifically geared towards this that will be available to caregivers through June 1st. It does require your manager to sign off on that PTO donation, because we are looking very specifically for any of it to be related to, again, the COVID-19 crisis that we are in right now. That form is available through Centra People. Under your benefits page, there is a link. It's going to be right next to where the regular PTO donation form is. So if you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to the benefits team, but definitely you'll need that manager's approval on that.
That's great, because if you have extra PTO and you have a fellow caregiver, a colleague that does need additional PTO to care for themselves or care for family, then you can donate PTO. PTO buyback right now, that is going to remain the same. So the current policy on PTO buyback, if at the end of the year last year you put in for that, then those dates and all of those payouts would remain the same. So that particular policy stays in effect. We've had a lot of questions about reduced work hours. Say that you're in a unit right now or in another department where your work hours are being reduced. We have a great group of people through the staffing office that are working on redeployment opportunities. We know that so many of you have great gifts and talents that can be utilized in short-staffed areas right now, and these are just temporary redeployment opportunities, but certainly contact the staffing office for that. Also, you can contact the VEC which is the Virginia Employment Commission, to ask questions about unemployment if you find yourself in one of those situations. And I think the last thing that we should talk about is absences. What is considered approved, an approved absence right now? I know there's been questions about that as well.
Yeah, so approved absences are going to be more around your furlough. If you have been, again, furloughed by employee care, remember that's the key step there when we're talking about furlough. But also if you are in need of caring for yourself individually, or maybe a family member due to COVID-19, or maybe out for child care needs. We know all the schools are closed right now through the end of the school year. So those are what we're looking at as approved absences at this time.
Right. And as a reminder, if you are on furlough, being travel furloughed, symptomatic. You also have access if you have available EIB hours. On your third day of furlough, you can access those EIB hours. You can have a combination of available PTO, work leave without pay, or you can also access EIB hours if you have those available. So those are, again, some top of mind things. Now, talking about childcare, lots and lots of people affected by schools that have been closed and childcare facilities that have been closed, but we've got emerging good news around that. So Aubrey, tell us about that.
By the time you are viewing this, you should have already received an email about some of our efforts around childcare opportunities that will be available to Centra caregivers. Now keep in mind, this is a list that we are updating as we receive information from organizations in our community that can provide child care resources. We're not recommending one organization over another. We will have a list available to you as caregivers, but we of course want to make sure that parents or guardians are taking the time to really look through what is available and make sure that you guys are checking in on those resources and you feel comfortable with where you're sending your children. So we'll have that sent out in an email. It's going to be available on our Facebook page, Centra Connect, and then the COVID-19 resource page. And then also it will be on our external Centra Health website that's dedicated to COVID-19, where you'll have to just put in your credentials and you'll be able to access that list there.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that before we finish our video today. That's great to know. Community, again, just we're all in this together. So they're really pitching in to help and to come in and just help us out at this at a time like this. Okay, Transamerica.
Yeah, so Transamerica, just a couple of updates around availability to speak with our Transamerica representative, CJ Bishop. They are no longer going to have her on site at our location, so she will be remote. But we wanted to make sure you understand she is completely accessible to you should you have questions about what's going on in our environment right now from a financial standpoint in regards to your retirement planning. And she's going to be available to schedule an appointment with you, talk with you over the phone, and we will be sure and list the way that you can schedule that appointment in the email link that comes out with this video, and also we'll put that information at the end of this video series.
Great. Lastly, hang on, just two more things. So we have a lot of requests coming in for wonderful people within our community that want to donate cotton masks, that want to make masks and donate cotton masks, and we are so grateful for that. And so we have partnered with Gleaning for the World. We've just been so overwhelmed by so many people in the community that want to help that we were just thinking we could get into this full time. So we need somebody to help. So we partnered with Gleaning for the World. There are drop-off locations currently in Lynchburg. You can drop off at the Dawson Inn, which is just on the back side of the LGH campus. There is a bin there. There's a bin at Bedford, and there's a bin at Southside, Centra Southside and Centra Bedford Memorial Hospital. They are going to take care of receiving those, laundering them, and then redistributing them. And so we're very grateful for those in our community who are helping, and certainly very grateful for Gleaning for the World and their partnership with us. Okay, last but not least, just a few more things. External COVID hotline for those in your family, in the community that want to know, how do I get answers? 200-1225 is the external hotline. Also this week, we have given those of you who are not on Centra property, that do not have remote access, the ability to tap into our internal COVID site that gives information specific to caregivers. What you need to do, go to centrahealth.com, scroll to the bottom. There's a link that it says COVID employee link. Click on that, use your Centra ID and password to log in. That will give you access. So if you are on travel furlough, if you are a frontline caregiver that just has not had opportunity to go in while you're here, certainly go in and check those things. We're keeping it updated and keeping the material fresh for you. And so I don't know that we've said a lot.
We have said a lot. Lots of information.
Lots of information, but we hope it's been helpful for you as we kind of navigate this together. And we thank you again so much for all you're doing. Like we said last week, certainly you all are our heroes. We will get through this together. But Centra, we want to say thank you so much. Join us next week. In the meantime, do well, think well, and be well.